Hi everyone, this is the E-mini S&P 500 futures. I'm using a 2000 tick chart and a 21 EMA. I'm also trading the E-mini NASDAQ with a 1000 tick chart and also a 21 EMA. And so starting off on the ES here, we have our overnight high up here, our overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. And starting off, we push on here, this forms our overnight high, and we make this failed second entry. So notice we have first entry long, second entry long, failure. Starting from this low right here, we have clearly two legs up right there. Now I do want to mention this first leg up is still within this chop right here. We clearly started going sideways, and this first leg stayed within this chop very well, like it's literally part of this range. And so when we push out here, this is the breakout leg. Now breakout legs are more significant than legs that stay within the structure, and oftentimes you'll get a second leg up from that breakout leg. So starting from here, you'll often get two legs up because this one is breaking the structure. And so if price struggles to get back into this range and struggles to fade back down, then you want to look at a possible second leg from that breakout leg. But with that being said, you still don't want to ignore this right here. You still have a two-legged move. So if price has a good reaction to it, then you need to go along with it. It's only if it struggles to push back down do you want to look for another leg up. So just saying, a lot of times legs that stay within the structure and don't break aren't going to be as significant as legs that push out and break these structures here. Now, when we break out here, we can expect price to attempt to fade, and so combining this failed second entry with a fade, we can absolutely look for a short here. Now when we push lower here, we have a clear hold on top of the EMA, which is not ideal for a short, and then we make these two other bullish bars right here. Notice they're closing near their highs, and then we have this green bar here. And so that's really not ideal on a reversal pattern, especially when the first leg is still within that range right there. And so I didn't like a limit order on this, even when you get this red bar here and it ticks lower. I didn't like trying to enter all the way up here because considering what I said about this leg right here, it's not breaking out, it's still within this structure, it's still looking choppy and rangy right there. I would only want to get in here if we have a clear swift push down, not holding above and then getting a couple legs or a couple bars that are bullish to the side there. So it's really just not ideal. So nothing there for me, but this is an important level to look at. That's why I have it circled there, important area. And so anyway, we push on lower here. Notice we have downtrend, break, and then this is our first attempt lower, and then we start our second attempt lower. Now there's no way to get in on these two legs down here. Like I said, no entry there. We push lower, we break out, we fade back in, and then we start that second leg down. And as far as going long here, there's no good long right here. Even though this downtrend has a break and a new low, you can still possibly get a second leg down, and you're not off of any clear support. If you had pushed lower here, make that new low and push on up and make a small little higher low that has room, then you can look for a long. But by the time you get a higher low right here, you've already touched the other side of this range, pushing off of it, and at that point the range rules are in play, so you can't just take this because then you have a first entry pushing off that high right there. So that's not ideal, not to mention, of course, there's no room. And so anyway, we kind of just chop to the side for a bit before pushing on lower, and now we have two clear legs at a new low. Now, notice that I have this channel forming right here, so we kind of have this channel within this channel right here. And so we're pushing lower here. These lows, we have it right off those highs, those first two highs, and then as price reaches these lows are fitting. And so at first, it doesn't quite reach that measured move. Price has a first entry right here. We get a first entry short. That's not enough to take a short, unfortunately, so no short for me there. At this point, the downtrend has played out with two attempts at a new low, and then when you get a rush above the EMA like that, that's telling you price is reversing. So you don't know that price is going to drop on down from there just because you get a bearish bar after that first entry. Again, it's played out with two legs nearly measured, so that's really not a good short there. And so anyway, we push on lower here, we reach this low right here, so this channel is looking really solid. We push on up, first entry, again, you want to see a second entry, especially when you're just coming off of a key entry point right here. This is the channel lows. When you push off of it, you want to see two legs to the other side of the channel before going short. So this is just not enough to go short here. We push on lower here, we reach that low again, and then we get another first entry, and then, we just rock it on down. Really no way to get in on it here. It's not a clean setup. And so anyway, we push on lower and we break out of the overnight low. As soon as we break out of the overnight low, price starts getting choppy before getting a sharp push down. And so notice that we have an overshoot of this blue channel right here. So we push out of it, overshoots commonly lead to breaks. This is why you get these two spikes up in the opposite direction. This is very common to see that. And so notice this wider channel right here, right off that high right there. Price perfectly at that measured move has a good bearish reaction to that channel right there. So I like this short right here. Good looking for 1 to 2. We have these 2 attempts to fade, because when you break out of an overnight low or the overnight high, or a range for that matter, when you break out, you need to see 2 attempts to fade before you buy the breakout, or in this case, short the breakout. Okay, like when you push out here, even when you're getting these bearish bars, you don't just want to assume the breakout's going to continue. You need to wait on 2 attempts to fade, because when you break out, when price breaks out of a range level or an overnight level, price is drawn back to it like a magnet. When it breaks out of the low side, the bulls want to see a fade. And so if you get 2 attempts to fade, that's your second entry. You already have your 2 attempts, so you can look for the failure. That's how second entries form. It's from price getting attracted to magnets, magnets being the overnight levels, trend lines, measured moves. And so when you get a measured move right there, you have your 2 attempts, you can look for the fade failure. And so that's what this is here. And so anyway, we push on lower here. Plenty of room. It's kind of going sideways. So it was, it's clear, but it's kind of going sideways. So that's why I liked 1 to 2 here, because it's still within this sideways action. And so anyway, we push on lower here, get a couple legs down, and then notice that, I just want to show the price action. We get 2 legs down, and then after those 2 legs down, price makes 2 attempts back higher before pushing back down. Now, this right here, it looks good, but you do need a limit order. It does not look good to enter all the way down here and expect it to push out, especially because the support is becoming pretty clear. You have that push up right there, and then you kind of start forming this support a little bit higher. But with those wicks pushing down, the support could easily just be anywhere within this range right here that I'm going back and forth. And so it's not ideal to push it through it, especially because it is getting pretty stacked up right there. Now, it's still clear. You can still clearly see those 2 attempts holding on that trend line right there. You would just need a limit order, and in this case, it was a no fill. And so anyway, we push on lower here. We break out of this low. We immediately start fading back in. We get these 2 pushes up. And now when price reaches the other side of this channel here, the range, when it reaches the high of the range at the measured move, this is a great place to look for a short. But in this case here, we end up just pushing on through, and then we get stacked between the range high and the overnight low. And so when you start to push lower here, it's really just not a good place to go short. Even though you have your 2 legs up and you just retested, it got so choppy right there. It would have been better if we had just gotten a more swift push down to get along with. You're basically going into a range above this range right here. And so, this is just like a battle between the bears and the bulls, basically. The bulls want to fade on up. The bears want to make a new low for this downtrend. They just had a break. We just don't quite get a perfect setup for it. And now notice that, let me just extend this a little bit, because we end up reaching that low again, but price does make a failed second entry before continuing lower. Notice that after we push off that high, we have first entry long, second entry long failure. Now this is of course not a good one to enter. It's right into that low. It's completely sideways, but it just goes to show price action holds the same, basically always. Even though it's not a perfect setup right there to go short, it still formed a failed second entry. So it's basically, I'm just showing the price action. It's consistent over time. Even if it's not a perfect setup, you still got that failed second entry pushing us down to a new low. So downtrend, break, new low, and then after that new low, price is immediately making 2 attempts to reverse. So small picture like this, big picture, price action always works the same. So anyway, after this new low right here, this is a great place to get a failed second entry, a reversal pattern to go higher. Again, the downtrend is played out. If we push on up and get a failed second entry, that would just be great. But in this case here, we don't get a perfect setup. We push on up, we get this 1 leg up, and then on the break, we push below the EMA and we close below a few times, then we just push on higher. Really, it would have been great if we had, say it wasn't as choppy right here and it had a better push up. We could have had more room for 2 legs that actually ends up holding on the EMA. And even if it pushes through the EMA on a 2-legged move down, as long as it has a very clear push back up, then you can get a good failed second entry there. But, it just doesn't set up very well. And so anyway, we push on up here. We have little uptrend, break, new high, and then, a little tiny attempt to reverse right there before pushing higher. really nothing to enter on. We just reached this measured move, so what I'm thinking is we could get a strong push lower and find a short. Even from here, even though this downtrend, excuse me, even though this downtrend has just played out, if price cannot fade this overnight low, and it actually just pushes off of it, then we can still continue to look short. This is a great place to get another failed second entry back down. And so if we push on up in here, then what I'd like to see is a two-legged retest on the top of the overnight low. So a push on in with two legs retesting, that can offer us a great long. And what could also happen is, notice that on a bigger picture, this is of course one leg. And so what can happen is we push on up. I'm just going to draw it with an arrow really quick. We can push on up, get a couple legs back, retesting the overnight low, and so we can get a very big picture failed second entry. That would be, a really good place to look for a long. We push on up, a couple legs back, first entry short, second entry short, failure right after this downtrend played out. And so yeah, we'll see if that happens. Again, let me just draw out the flip side. We could easily push on lower and make a failed second entry to the opposite side if this overnight low ends up holding to the downside. So, we'll see what happens. And of course, if this setup forms, it would be confluent with this uptrend, because this uptrend would have a break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then we can look for the failure. So that's what I'd be looking for here, but I'm going to be done for the day after this video. So anyway, here's over to the NQ. Notice that we have this uptrend. So this is our overnight high here, overnight low. Now we're on the NQ. Just sometimes I know that it can be kind of not clear whenever I'm switching between. So now we're looking at the NQ here. We have uptrend, break, push up to a new high. So this uptrend has played out. We can expect price to attempt to reverse. And so when we push on lower here, we just pushed down, just formed our overnight low. We can expect price to attempt to reach the other side, and then we get a break from this push down, and we get these two legs up. Now, they're not super clear. It is a bit choppy. It's going a bit sideways in these different places here, but you can still see that there's two legs up, and then at that measured move, price starts pushing back lower. Now, on this, as the measured move is met and we start pushing lower, I didn't like the setup there, and it technically is from here, first entry long, second entry long, failure, by the way, just to show, to the count, this is a big picture failed second entry. And so anyway, we don't get a perfect setup here. It doesn't get below the EMA. Overshoots do lead to breaks, and so I wasn't very thrilled with how it was just kind of stagnating, and then it couldn't get below the EMA at first. And so I just wanted to wait on a better setup. When we push back up here, we hold on that measured move level. And so the measured move level held, and then price retested it with a lower high that pushes below the EMA, and we have room to the low of this little trend right here, this trend line. And so I like that right there. We push on lower, we break out, we get a couple attempts to push on up. Now, just notice, after these two legs up, price had two legs down. And then after those two legs down, the measured move is met right here. Price had two attempts to reverse, and then it failed. And so, you just really got to notice the two-legged moves. Sometimes, when you see this, it can just look so choppy, and you'll see this leg here and this leg down and this leg. But just try to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Starting from here, from the high of the day, we have a downtrend with a two-legged break, and then two attempts at a new low, and then after the measured move is met, two attempts to reverse back higher before the failure. So just really try to see the bigger picture. Just go through your charts, mark everything. Anyway, continuing on here, we push on lower. This is not a good setup, even though it's below this trend line right here. This is not a clear second leg from this first leg. I would want to see another attempt higher. And I just want to show really quick, with this trend line, of course, at first, you can try to draw something like this. The channel, it wasn't clear as a channel, so I wasn't really playing it off of there, but even with this channel right here, it's just very not clear, not to mention, of course, the support that's forming. This whole thing really is kind of a range, although I didn't keep it on there because I was playing this uptrend. The uptrend is pretty clear. I didn't feel the need to leave it on, cluttering up the chart. And so anyway, clearly there's nothing there anyway. We push on lower here, and we get a breakout of the overnight low. When we break out, price, you want to see two attempts to fade before buying the breakout or shorting the breakout. And so we get first attempt to fade and then second attempt to fade. Now this leg is a lot bigger than this second leg, I didn't want to enter right into the EMA, even though it's a two-legged retest. I wanted to see something clear pushing below the EMA. Like if we had gotten a clear, perfect measured move with a bearish reaction, I wouldn't mind entering it into the EMA a bit, because realistically from here, even though you have a couple legs down, like starting from here, after that two-legged move, you would have this. Since this second leg continued on and that retest is on that measured move, if you got a clear measured move up to this level, then I would be much more open to taking a short right into the EMA. But considering it's just, we could possibly still make the measured move higher here, this measured move, I just wanted to see something a bit more clear. And then when we got this lower high right here, it didn't close below the EMA, so I just really wasn't feeling this trade. I did not like it. I wanted to see something clear below the EMA, So nothing for me there. We push on lower. We're clearly going into this range right here. We push on up as we reach that low. And, from here, to the count, you can see first entry long, second entry long, failure, so failed second entry. But you already have two legs down reaching the other side of this range, with a very bullish reaction. So at this point, this is not a good failed second entry. You want to see that before it reaches the other side of the range. Otherwise you have to start considering the range rules. You come off one side, you want to see price is expected to make two attempts to the other side. And so there's a very high chance that you can tick lower here and get another attempt, even though you already reached this side. So not an ideal trade right there. We push on lower here. We get a couple more legs down. Now notice that on a bigger picture, it's forming these two legs down. And right at that measured move, does it reverse? Very strong reaction. I was not in the room for this, unfortunately. Very strong bullish reaction right at that measured move. Price had already attempted to fade. It failed. And then on that failure, we have a very strong reaction. So that's telling you the failure isn't working. And so it pushed above the EMA, very bullish bar. This looks great to attempt to get into. Now, again, I was out of the room. I don't know if it would have come back and filled your limit order. Now, I don't mind pushing it out a couple ticks. So, just saying, I'm not sure exactly after the trigger how far it came back. But anyway, so we push on up here. We push off the overnight high. Now, when we push off here, this is another place you can get a failed second entry down for a short. But it just doesn't happen here. We just push on lower here, reach these lows, immediately get choppy, and then start pushing on up. Now notice this measured move right here. When it launches here, it's a little bit clearer to see the bigger picture leg. Of course, it was held down by the overnight high, or the overnight low, and when we get this push back down and then this second leg up, that's when it's become much more clear, because this leg is made up of two smaller legs, and so after this leg, it's its second leg up right there. First leg, second leg, that's when the bigger picture legs become a bit more clear. And notice a perfect reaction to this measured move. As soon as it met it, it did get a little bit choppy, but it pushed on down, pushed back out of the overnight low. Notice here, this is a big picture failed second entry. So again, even though you had these two legs down, so first leg, second leg, and then technically this is for this, but the high starts there, so you have to put it there. It went on through, and you're getting a retest of that previous level. So this is its own trend that you can play. So we have this downtrend with a two-legged break, perfect measured move, pushing back out of the overnight low with plenty of room to this trend line right there. So I really like this trade here. We push on through it here. Notice that after price reaches this trend line, you get two attempts to reverse. It's very choppy, but you can still see it there. So again, price action, it's always working the same. Even when it's more choppy and you can't quite get a good, it's not as clear, it's still price action working the same. Two attempts to reverse there, and then it failed, and we continue on down. So pretty clear two-legged move down right here. Nearly met that measured move. It's not always going to reach it. This is a great place to get a reversal pattern. Kind of like on the ES, we had a similar push on up at the end here, but it didn't form a good reversal pattern. Same thing here. We just don't quite get a good one. We push on up, and it gets very choppy. And so we have this higher low right here, but it's not off of any support, so it's not worth taking. We push on up, we get a couple legs up. Price has a little reaction to that measured move, but it ends up pushing on higher. And so, yeah, we can get something similar to the ES. Even if we push down from here with a clear failed second entry, we can still get a short. It doesn't have to have a retest. Of course, if it pushes up and gets a retest, then it's more likely to get a stronger push down. But if we get a good failed second entry from here, then we can absolutely look to take a short. So let me just draw up an example here. Something like this, we can look to get short on if it sets up well. And yeah, so this measured move, a lot of times it'll get so close to the measured move, and it'll just give a good reversal. And if it gives a good reversal, then of course you want to get in on it. But sometimes it will go on down and retest just to reach it, even though it almost met it, and then it'll reverse straight on from there. I've seen that happen many times. So just because it got close doesn't mean price won't attempt to reach it again. But with that being said, if it starts to give a good reversal and it's actually holding above the EMA and it's not pushing back below like this, then you can absolutely treat it as if it's met, basically, because it's not always going to be met perfectly. It's about how price reacts to it. And so anyway, that's why when I unextended my channel, I kind of left it like that. So now that it's back, we are off this key entry point right here. We can definitely push into something very nice right here soon. So ideally, we could even get something retesting this trend line right here. So we'll see what happens. I want to, similarly to the ES, this is on a bigger picture, clearly a channel, so one leg on an even bigger picture. And so on a failed second entry here, we will have our break in our first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then failure. So we can absolutely look for a short in this area here. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.